Welcome to Garden Plants with Jim Putnam. Let's talk about highlights Arborvitae. This is Thuja occidentalis highlights from the Southern Living Plant Collection, or highlights Arborvitae. Would be another way we could say this. It has this incredible pyramidal habit, and as you can see, this amazing chartreuse colored new growth on it, and it's like this year round. This thing has been incredibly sun tolerant for us. The spot that it's sitting in right now, it's in the sun from 7:30 a.m. until mid to late afternoon, just getting absolutely blasted in this space, and it has performed amazingly well. You can see the kind of upright pyramidal habit it has on its own, so it lends itself to the kind of space that I have it, where I'm trying to ultimately get quite a bit of height out of it on the corner of the foundation here. But look at this thing, and it looks this way year round. Highlights has been extremely burn resistant and bleach resistant for us out here in the full sun too. Some of our chartreuse colored conifers mid to late summer can get a bit of what looks like a bleaching on them, where it goes from yellow to kind of a whitish color. And this one, through an extremely hot summer, has held up so well to that. This one has taken a lot of abuse. This is its third location. We had a retaining wall space where this thing is planted that we had been meaning to get rid of and repair foundation, put new siding on the house, and a bunch of projects. So it was originally out here, moved to one other spot, and then now has found its permanent home. We always knew it was going here. It just needed some other projects along the way. So having moved it 3 times and having it in this much sun, and it taken a bit of abuse, it really has held up extremely well to that. So this, you know, Thuja occidentalis, we've seen them up in the Northeast where people just turn them into little box hedges almost. They're very extremely tolerant of pruning and pruned into, you know, almost boxwood-like shapes, much larger than boxwood type hedges, but they are tolerant of that. This one will get, so it could be kept, let's say 6 to 8 foot tall in some sort of hedging like that. But if it's never pruned, it's probably going to reach more like 20 feet in height, similar to like Emerald Arborvitae, probably 4 or 5 feet in width, something like that. So you can see, you know, the general shape of it. So if I never prune this, I'm thinking that in 20 years, I'm going to have a 20-foot tall highlights Arborvitae on the corner. But again, I could reach a certain height and then just start shearing it. And Thuja occidentalis are adaptable to, you know, those types of, you know, just rigid shaping if you want to do that. Looking at this angle, can't you tell why highlights is just the perfect name for it? What a great pop of color out here. It's going to really contrast nicely with any other foliage plants, any other foliage colors. Really going to stand out against our the blue paint on the house as well over the years. Hardy in zones 5 to 8, so lots of people watching can grow these. Regular Thuja occidentalis is hardy up to like zone 3, so probably even more cold tolerant than zone 5. Full sun to part shade. This is, you know, we want to get the most color we possibly can on this thing, so the more sun, the better. We do have a few things planted around the base of it. There's some ajuga behind it and some other perennials and annuals planted near it, so its roots are being kept a little cooler than they would be otherwise, and then it's getting, gosh, 8 to 10 hours of direct sun every day in this location. This is going to be a great plant for a corner foundation piece, which is exactly what we've used it here for. Great in a mixed border hedge. I typically, again, you could line these up along a mixed border too and just have an entire row of these, but I typically recommend using some sort of mixed border hedge. That way, if you have any problem in the future with one of your plants in your hedge, you don't lose the whole hedge at the same time. Great in mass. What an incredible accent plant. And then, of course, as just a single specimen plant in the middle of a bed somewhere that you can work other things around. And then a great container plant. At some point, it's going to outgrow most containers, but you could probably go 2-3 years without that actually being an issue. Eastern Arborvitae or Thuja occidentalis are pretty adaptable to most soil types. In their native range north of us, we tend to see them in sandier, almost slightly boggy conditions is where we've seen them in their actual native range up in the Northeast and up into Canada, which is fairly interesting because they are completely adaptable to our clay soils here in the South as well. We do mound them up just a bit when we plant them. And I don't, you know, with conifers, they're not great at letting you know when they're dry, and they'll just start thinning on the interior if they've become dry. And so this is a plant that I'm kind of want to monitor when it's abnormally dry outside. If it's been in the ground for a long time, it's not going to really need your help if an area that gets regular rainfall year round, unless you go into some sort of drought conditions. And then the conifers in my garden are going to be the first thing on my list that I'm paying attention to, just because they don't let you know that they're dry before they start thinning like that. Really been surprised by this plant because this is not a spot we water, and you won't be able to tell from the camera angle. I am 3 feet above the driveway. There's a 3-foot drop off right beside this thing. It has been in probably the driest spot in this entire garden the entire time. So this thing, I've been amazed by it because of the sun really slamming it, and having the chartreuse really hold up without bleaching, and then being in probably the driest overall spot in the entire garden where water just immediately sheds away, you know, from it. So, you know, really been amazed how rugged this particular variety of Eastern Arborvitae is. Fertilizing, we fertilize once a year with an organic fertilizer. It doesn't need you to push it at all. We've got it well mulched. We've got a couple of ground covers planted around it, which are probably, again, helping with the shallow root system. You know, being in the full sun, those roots are kind of protected a bit between the mulch and the ground cover items that we have out here. If you want to prune it or do any, you know, severe pruning on it, I would do that toward the late winter. I think that's going to be the ideal time of year to do that. And that's pretty much it. There's not a lot of maintenance here, unless you're going to turn this thing into a hedge where you're pruning it, you know, trying to prune it all the time. If you put it in a place where you can allow it to just take its natural, upright, narrow form and not have to worry about it, it's keep the weeds away from it, mulch it, water if it's abnormally dry, and fertilize it in the spring. You know, and you probably don't even have to do that in a lot of places. So really really low maintenance plants. Really love this Highlights Thuja or Highlights Arborvitae from the Southern Living Plant Collection. Thanks for watching.